Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Young Gruff, and I'm joined by the returned Lachlan Teely. You came back from holiday.
Holidayed and rest and recovered. On episode 182, we have a decently newsworthy week. Like, quite a big chunk of news of movie stuff has happened this week, all while I was away, so I had a lot to read up when I got back. So forget the trailers this week. There are some, but we have some juicy news.
Lots of stories. I caught up this morning, got up early to watch Rebel Moon, the Scargiver. Was it worth it? Well, yeah, I'll get into that. I also caught some movies like The Fall Guy, The Greatest Hits, and watched some shows like Ripley, Baby Reindeer, and The Sympathizer by Park Chan-wook. And then Lachlan and I both watched the Fallout series.
Finally, in another universe, the plot of this film might not be that fictional. This week in our universe, this one that we're in, we have a look at Alex Garland's fourth and maybe final solo feature film, Civil War.
Maybe in the Devs universe, it's where it's our actual own reality. Yes.
Yeah,
also
exactly.
watch Devs, by the way. I just wanted to bring that in. But let's skip the intro and get into the show.
We are professional.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there.
Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
All right, luckily you're back. Anything
I'm
you can
back.
tell us about your holiday in Bali? Are you rested? Are you sunburnt? Are you still
I am-
recovering from being drunk all the time? Or what did you get
All
up to?
of those cheap beers in Bali, which is the best part. It's
Yeah.
also just a fantastic place. Like, the weather, it's humid. I hate humidity, but whatever. I was there. I didn't bring enough shirts because I sweated through all of them. We did quite a bit of walking while we were there. I don't know. Like, it was a great holiday. I can't complain. It was my first time in Bali. I've never actually been to Bali, which is like the most un-Australian thing, I think, in my life, is that I've never been to Bali, and it's like the go-to destination for Australians. You go there and like every third person is an Aussie, so yeah, or a European backpacker. There's like a weird mixture of like Germans and then
Yeah.
Australians,
They're
and then there's
everywhere.
the Indonesians as well. But no, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. I did the whole like water bomb, Bintang. I ate at a whole bunch of places. It was fantastic. Yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah.
But
just
movies.
Just the movies.
There's so
What
much for me to
movies?
catch up on. Like, I was away for a week, and then it's just like everything's happened. Like it's like DEFCON. Is it 5 or 1? Which way does it go? DEFCON
I think
5. I think the
I
bigger
think
the number,
one is the worst one. No, I think.
Okay,
the
well,
smaller the
it was
number,
like
the worse
DEFCON.
is.
It was like DEFCON 3. Like, everything happened this week. There was like a bunch of news, like a whole bunch of things dropped that are actually like considered to be good.
Yeah.
And also Rebel Moon came out as well, the second one, which I'm
Of
so
course.
keen to watch. Maybe tonight.
I'll talk about it actually later on, but when I tried to click on it to watch it this morning, it queued up a 1 minute long clip over and over again, and I had to turn on my VPN, set it to a different place in order to play the film. And I don't know what kind of weird bug that was, but it felt like the universe telling me, don't watch this movie. you go back to bed.
Oh,
You
God.
don't need to see this right now. But yeah, that's that.
I just
But,
started choking, so I feel like the universe doesn't want me to watch it. I almost just died.
It really is not in the cards for us. But no, I mean, like, you go on a holiday, you fly somewhere,
Yeah.
and the flight isn't even long enough to like watch a movie while you're in air. So yeah, you couldn't even like kind of do that and get
Oh, no, well,
the entertainment.
It's a three and a half hour flight, so I could have
Okay.
watched a movie, but I ended up watching Fallout, which we'll get to eventually, for a bit of it, and then finished
Yeah.
it when I got home. But it was a trip where you didn't really watch much. It was a trip of just enjoying the
Relaxing.
place that it's
Yeah.
at. So no, it was great. The other thing I forgot to tease in the intro is I've got a package to open that has
Yeah.
been delivered to my place of residence whilst I was away, which
Mhm.
I'm keen to open. Well, there's a teaser for you.
Yeah, well, I think you'll open it in what we've been watching. So if you can't wait, then I guess skip ahead there. That's addressed to the one person who sent it to you.
Yes,
Who doesn't want
yes.
to watch the whole episode. Anyways, we got a couple of trailers to look at. I think let's start with the one that you talked a bit about earlier. That like it brought up your excitement for horror a bit more. That, like, it's showing that there's some promising horror flicks coming out this year, and that's the short little teaser for Longlegs. It's out July 12th. Yeah, does this increase your hype? Do you think they got something interesting?
Yeah,
here?
because it's not necessarily a trailer, it's like another teaser of a kind, and that's exciting. I wouldn't mind if they didn't release an actual trailer and just kept doing these teasers, because that would be a really interesting advertisement technique to build up the excitement for this film, because it really doesn't tell you much. If you read the log lines on IMDb, Letterboxd, whatever you want, you'll know what the story's kind of about. But these, similar to the trailer for Joker, which you kind of get an idea of the story, but it was a really good trailer for feeling and how the movie's going to actually kind of hopefully be like. So I feel like this film is doing a really good job of that, teasing what this film is going to be like, feel like, look like. It could Suicide Squad us. We don't know. Like, all of a sudden it's a completely different movie. But what they're doing with these ads are top notch, like really good.
Yeah, there's also been a recent trend of, I think A24 does it. I saw it with Love Lies Bleeding, I think, as well, where they don't give it like a trailer thumbnail and like a trailer title. They just name it something and then have it be like a still from the trailer. I don't know if they choose it or if it's just the I don't know what's up with that, but they're trying something out, and I feel like they I don't know, maybe it's the younger generation really being focused on having stuff being brought to them organically. And if a company poses as like this organic thing that they are posting, then or like, yeah, it's not like through the algorithm just brought to your attention. Maybe people connect with it more. I don't know what the idea behind it is, but I'm keen for this one as well. And I think I feel the same way that you just said about for Hitman than Longlegs with the presentation of Don't Show Us More. This trailer already showed us more. I think the first trailer already showed more than enough. And here it kind of like what I really enjoyed about this film is like, obviously that's a really lucky position that I was in to see it at a festival, because no one had talked about it before. I literally was in the second screening of this film ever. And then like you uncover it with the people as it happens. And when you see the moments disconnected from each other and you already kind of know, hey, this is where we're going, I think it often takes away, especially from comedies. And this one is another one that still stands on its own. I think the trailer is a good trailer. It gives you the vibe that it's like a really sexy, funny comedy. And that's exactly what it is. But I just fear that it already gives away like a lot of his different personalities that he does. And yeah, I don't know. Did you watch the trailer? Did you click out of it? Did you watch the whole thing?
I did. I didn't want to watch the trailer, but as a fellow podcaster hoster, I had to watch the trailer, and it was okay. Like I'm going to hold my opinions separate to the trailers after. Why am I bringing it up twice this episode? But since Suicide Squad in 2016, like trailers, they can
DC
be.
Is
they are
on your mind. With
one,
Snyder Cut.
they are done by a different company. Usually a whole other company makes trailers. And two, it is not a representation of the film. It should be, but generally they're used to sell you the movie. And it could become like something completely different. And you just spoke on that, like how the moments come together and they chop and change it. I'm going to, like the trailer was good. I'm going to hold it separate, Ewan. I'm going to try to be blank slate in my head when I go to watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna like this more than you do by the end of the year. By a fairly long shot, I can already tell you this, but because I'm a huge Linklater fan. Literally, the man has made my favorite trilogy of all time. So like that's I don't know. I just feel like Netflix is an odd place for it to land. And it can have a big reach, and unfortunately, sometimes the audience on Netflix is enjoying slop a bit too much. So I feel like it might take away from what it has to offer. Similar to like when stuff lands on Prime. I think back to Saltburn and that reaction, like a movie that shouldn't be big, in my opinion, but it was just like scandalous. This one, like, I don't know, maybe it hits more anyone, but You just came out on VOD, and I think it did crazy good numbers for a rom-com. And it also stars Glenn Powell, future movie star. It's out in theaters on May 24th and then on Netflix June 7th. In Switzerland here, it has a release date in September. So it will be a Netflix US only release, maybe in some other I was about to say districts because I already have capitals. I have Civil War on my mind already. What is it called? Like, I don't know, just like in different regions it would also be out, but similar to like when they acquired May December from Gun, it only was playing on US Netflix, but yeah, if you got a VPN and know how to use it, then you can see Hitman starting June 7th, and I can very much recommend it, even like just off of that recommendation. Maybe don't even go see that trailer. Anything else you want to say about Richard Linklater? I just want to extend this bit so Hitman has a longer part in this episode because I love the film. It's my favorite film of the year so far that hasn't, I guess, come out yet. Chris Hemsworth is Optimus Prime in Transformers 1 on September 13th.
That's it.
Yeah. Anything else to say about this trailer?
No.
I love the introduction when they did like the awkward we said it not at the same time, so let's do it again. The obsession with making things authentic, but it's also so fabricated in I don't know, fabrication of authenticity is maybe how I would describe it. But yeah, we got Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, John Hamm. Big old cast with those little transformies. Yeah. I don't know. Animated film later out this year. I'm not the biggest Transformers fan. So if it gets served up to my plate, I will gobble it up, but I won't go back to the restaurant, probably. And then lastly, M. Night Shyamalan. I'm not the biggest fan of M. Night. I'll come out and say this. But Trap, a trailer that sets up the premise of a serial killer being locked into a pop star concert with his daughter. That's kind of intriguing. I can't lie. That's actually kind of fun. What did you make of the trailer for Trap?
Yeah, it got me. I was like, oh, okay. Then I thought it revealed the twist. And I was like,
yeah,
oh my God.
Too.
And I was like, this trailer says way too much. And then I'm thinking, wait, if they just revealed the twist in the trailer, what's the actual twist going to be in the film? So I'm like excited. Low-key. Yeah. I don't know why I'm excited for a Shyamalan movie, but I am.
Yeah, I mean, he's let me down before, but I think
he's let everyone down.
Last year, Knock at the Cabin, I think wasn't bad. I think that was actually pretty solid in his filmography. This movie needs to have that plot part of it revealed that he's the guy that they're actually looking for within the first 15 minutes of the film.
Oh yeah,
from what I've heard, Abigail. I don't know if you watched. I haven't had a chance to get around to watching it this week, but we'll be talking about it next week. Horror film from the people who made Ready or Not, which, by the way, is getting a sequel that just got greenlit, and the last two Scream films. They did it. Abigail, and the trailer for it already revealed a part of the central antagonist, like the little girl's character and what she is. I don't want to spoil it here if you haven't seen it, which it gets spoiled in the trailer, but apparently it happens really late into the film, and it's like this whole thing where the characters you're watching are catching up to, I guess, what you already know from the trailer. And this movie shouldn't be doing that. And I hope, I mean, M. Night is no stranger to having a whole bunch of big twists. Maybe the pop star was the killer all along. I don't know. Maybe it's the little girl that actually is the killer and he wants to protect her. You never know with M. Night. So I'm actually kind of keen. It looks pretty good. And what's his name? Josh Hartnett? He hasn't been in a ton of stuff, but he was in Oppenheimer last year, right? So excited to see him do more again. But what was his last bigger role where people
Oppenheimer? I mean, not like a main character, right? You're talking about a main character?
Black Hawk Down, Pearl Harbor, The Faculty. It's been a while since he has had a chance to lead a film. He was in Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre and Wrath of Man, so I guess he works oftentimes with Guy Ritchie. That's why maybe you think he's around more than he actually is, and maybe
he's just been busy.
Maybe it's just been busy, man, and that's what I've been reading the news.
When was
lately.
When was his last big movie? When was it?
Last year? I think it's a little movie called Oppenheimer.
No. I'm talking about like leading man.
Leading man. I lead men down strange hallways. He was in Black Mirror. Yes, I don't remember the episode. He was in Die Hard. Hot. That was comedy. No, I tell you, it's been a while. See a movie called Time Traveler, where I think he's the main guy on the poster.
Yeah, it's probably The Faculty.
The Faculty was back last
1998,
millennia.
I think. He's been busy. He's a busy guy, you know. I don't know. I had something, and then I can't find the last movie that he was like actually had a big role in. So I don't know. Let's see how it goes. M. Night Shyamalan's the comeback king. We all know that.
Anyways, we got some news stories. First up, Tarantino is quitting his 10th movie. It's not like he's not making it anymore, anything like that, similar to Alex Garland saying, no, I'm not directing for the foreseeable future, but he's just quitting the project that was in the works already, the Movie Critic, and apparently I read that Brad Pitt was set to return as Cliff Booth in that film, so I guess it was kind of tied together universe-wise of what he's constructed. I don't know if he has a whole universe that's seemingly all constructed. I don't know. I don't care. But Tarantino quitting this film, do you think it will lead to greener pastures, something else? Or would you have loved to have seen the Movie Critic?
Look, I still want to see the Movie Critic in a way. I really hope if he decides to, like, I know he said he's fully quit it, but once he's decided to pick another film, I hope he actually releases the screenplay, because I would love to read it to see what he had in mind. My theory is it is too close to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I know he doesn't really want to rehash the same genre, and the Movie Critic just sounds like another movie by Tarantino making a movie about how he loves movies and then breaking the idea of a Tarantino movie and making it something different. So he's already done that with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? Which I have slowly come to really enjoy Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and appreciate it. The Movie Critic, I feel like, is just going to be the same thing. So I think he just wants to do something else. Maybe he still wants to do the next Star Trek movie. But I
was
feel
about
like,
to say. That's
yeah,
like
right?
the next,
Can you imagine?
next
They were
couple
like,
of months, it's like, hey,
I think they even have said that like the next Star Trek movie is like still in development, and I'm like, come on, Tarantino's gonna jump on that train and just do it then. So look, I feel like it's probably the best move, because I know a lot of people didn't enjoy Once Upon a Time in Hollywood compared to the rest of his films. So I don't know what he's going to do next. This makes me a bit more excited though, because it makes me go, cool, he doesn't want to do the same thing he's already done. So he is going to try to do something different. He's done quite a lot of different work in the sense of different genres, which means if he wants to do something different, there's only a few that he could do. But what he does next, I'll be excited to see.
I mean, he hasn't done sci-fi in any sort of way.
No.
Right? He's done a lot of crime stuff. But yeah, sci-fi, if he does Star Trek, would be right up there. It wasn't him who was mentioned for James Bond, right? Or was it?
I think Christopher Nolan was eyed for James Bond.
Yes.
Tarantino, I don't think they would let Tarantino do a James Bond. I feel like the people who own the rights to James Bond are very much, not only just need to be British, but are very much like, let's not give this to, like, they're not going to go, hey, we should do the next James Bond movie. Who should direct it? Oh, there's M. Night Shyamalan over there doing nothing. Like, they're not just going to give it to anybody. They're going to give it to a particular set of, you know, they probably saw Tenet and was like, there's a really good opportunity here to make a really good spy thriller. But no, I don't know. If he does sci-fi, that would be pretty cool to see what he does in terms of genre breaking it and making it his own, because that is the Tarantino thing. Take a genre, break it down, make the best of that genre, and then make the Tarantino twist on it. But yeah, I don't know. What's he gonna do?
We'll see. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, if this is truly his last film, I guess so. Yeah, he's kind of tipped his toes a bit into that, right? With the assembly thing. What was that? The Roadhouse thing that he also directed, more of the slasher thing. I mean, it lend itself to his kind of violent style. if he had a slasher. A slasher from him would actually be really exciting, just because we're both really fans of good like throwback slashers, and he seems to be the perfect guy, being such a cinema nerd. Yeah, that would be another exciting thing. But
do you think
we'll have to wait and see.
do you reckon he probably shot himself in the foot with saying, I'm only going to do 10 films? And,
Yes,
and now the pressure's on?
yes.
Because everyone's
Yeah.
like, what's he going to do?
Why?
This is his last
Yeah.
movie. I feel like the pressure might get to him a little bit, in the sense that he's probably going to double guess himself. What's he going to do next? This is his last movie. This is it, right?
Yeah.
Knock on wood, he doesn't die in the meantime. But like
Yeah.
what happens when he doesn't? He's like, this is it. This is the last movie. He probably wants to make an impact. What's he going to do? Is this
just
the movie that's going to
never
change
ending.
cinema? Is
It's-
this
it's
the
his-
next Citizen Kane?
No, it's just he lives out Synecdoche, New York, in actual life.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, again, hopefully we have something soon from him. I've seen all but one of his films. I still haven't seen the Western he did, the latest one, The Hateful Eight. All of the rest I have
really?
seen. Yeah. I almost saw it in theaters, and it was right around the time when that came out, when I was like deciding that I wouldn't watch films anymore in a German dub. And all that was showing was in a German dub all around places. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll have to wait until I can see it somewhere else. And I never got around to it. So Park Chan-wook had his series come out, The Sympathizer, adapted from a novel. And through these interviews, we have gotten an idea that Lionsgate is working on a TV show adaptation of Oldboy, with him set to produce. Lachlan, I don't know if he produced the adaptation from Spike Lee as well. I assume he had a producing credit on that, maybe. But yeah, what do you think about another Oldboy adaptation? Oh, and there's another thing about Spike Lee that I forgot to, because we had it in the news cycle last year with the High and Low. Did we talk about like Ice Spice being cast?
Yeah.
I forgot
yeah.
if we talked about that before.
I can't remember, but that's
yeah,
crazy
me
as
neither.
well. Do we need another one? Look, why not? You the original is always going to be here. The remake is always going to be here.
Lower,
So
yeah.
you've already got your bar, right? You're not going to go here. It's going to be very fucking difficult to come down here. So somewhere in between is where this is going to land. So it's not like saying, no, don't do it because you might ruin it. They've already done that, in a sense.
Yeah, that's fine. In between,
It could be up here.
maybe.
It could be
Yeah.
it could be just like a step down, right?
Mhm.
They could do
Yeah.
more depth. They have more time. They have
More octopuses, more octopi. What's the plural of octopus?
in James Bond terms or in real world terms? Because if it's James Bond, it's Octopussy.
Pussies. Yeah. Anyways, more of those to eat, I guess. Yeah. That's that. Then Martin Scorsese is working on two films. His next two films. One of them is I think it's called like The Life of Christ or something alongside that.
He's
and-
working on like 3 or 4 different things.
Yeah, but it seems to be true. But I think the first two he's gonna also seemingly direct as well, and get to that Life of Christ film with Andrew Garfield and Miles Teller. And then now we have the news that he's also working on a Frank Sinatra biopic that he has been wanting to make for a while, and seemingly, I don't know if it's confirmed yet, that Leonardo DiCaprio has been cast as the lead, and then Jennifer Lawrence cast as his second wife, Ava Gardner. Yeah, Lachlan, what do you think about Scorsese? He's on a hot streak. He's going into his Ridley Scott years, although I think he's younger. To just like pump them out, just get them rolling. Yeah, what do you
I
think?
mean, if he's got something to say, he's got something to say. So I think he did a fantastic job with Killers of a Flower Moon, with in a way presenting a story and then giving you a reason to tell you that story. And I think that was super exciting because it is based on a true story. The idea of him going, here's a true story of Frank Sinatra, and giving you a reason to tell you that story, he must have something to say. So he won't make a movie if he probably doesn't have anything to say. I think the Passion of the Christ movie is just a passion thing, because I think he's raised Catholic. So it's
Yeah.
probably in him to make that story. And there are plenty of films that are made telling that same story of Jesus, but to be told by one of the best filmmakers of all time, there has to be a different story that he wants to talk about, or at least something to say. So look, I'll be super keen to see him do this. And what do we think of Leo doing this role? That's a even more exciting. Like Scorsese doing a biopic, very interesting.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio doing Frank Sinatra.
I mean, I've seen some stills of Timothy Chalamet doing Bob Dylan, and I'm not really
I've seen
convinced. But
We'll
hey,
see.
it's different when it plays out. I think the Back to Black casting was horrible. I think this works, sorta. It really depends on where he goes, because with Sinatra you have his whole life, and I guess you're also not doing a biopic in a sense of having his whole life depicted, but it's seemingly an era that he picks, a couple of years, which is a smart choice to do. You have a story to tell, you tell that story, you don't expand it unnecessarily. I think it works. Just looks wise, not having both of them in front of me, their faces, I feel like it kind of could work in a way that isn't like super unconvincing. But yeah, what do you think?
You've got movies already like this. I think probably one of the like in recent memory, you have a lot of biopics about very famous singers. You've got Rocketman. You've got what was the Freddie Mercury one called again?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody. You've got Back to Black recently, and you're gonna have the Bob Dylan one coming up soon. There's quite a bit.
One Life came out this year.
One Life, Walk the Line, about Johnny Cash, with Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
So there's a lot of these films that have come out. Chadwick Boseman, Get On Up, James Brown. So like these films exist, and they are really interesting stories to tell. What this one is going to do, I'm not sure. I don't think there's any of these have been. Just trying to see which one has been directed by someone who's like, maybe the closest thing we've got is Jersey Boys by Clint Eastwood.
Can't say I'm familiar, but I guess. You mean like a big director who's tackling someone of
James
notoriety?
Mangold did Walk the Line, so he's a big director. He did Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Sorry,
I was looking up something. I wasn't listening, but yes, yeah, he did do that movie. He definitely did.
Yeah.
Because I was looking up who directed Steve Jobs, but he doesn't sing. So, but I was thinking biopic, and that's Danny Boyle.
Oh, how do we forget about Elvis?
Yeah, I mean Baz Luhrmann doesn't hold the same stature as like, I don't know. Not compared.
But doesn't hold the same
that ties back to
stature.
DiCaprio and The Great Gatsby, and I can see him play like that type of role, a like well put together man on the front who has a mic. I don't know. I could see DiCaprio do this without a problem. Spielberg is directing an UFO movie. I think they changed the name. Isn't it not called a UFO anymore? It's like a different name that
UAP. Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Right.
Yeah. Wait, where's my tinfoil hat? One sec. I'm kidding.
Where's the tinfoil hat when you need it? Yeah. Where's Sasquatch Sunset when you want to see it? It's only in the States, unfortunately. But yeah, Spielberg says his next project is likely a UFO film based on his own original idea, with David Cope writing the screenplay, which I'm not too familiar with his writing credits. I don't think I've seen most of them, apart from apparently he wrote Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
And he was going to direct it too until he realized he made a mistake.
Oh yeah. Oh god. But yeah, what do you think? Spielberg, UFO, sci-fi.
Yeah, I'll take it. He's great. One of the best filmmakers of our generation. Not our generation, but a generation. Best filmmaker, one of the best filmmakers who ever existed. In the very short amount of time that films have existed, we've already said that both Martin Scorsese and Spielberg are both some of the greats. But he can't really make a movie that's inherently just bad, right? He makes movies that are okay.
Well,
He makes
especially if
movies
it's
that are
his idea.
great.
You know, it's not the fourth Indiana Jones that the studio wants a sequel
Yeah.
to.
So I think that maybe, give him some time. He might start realizing, oh shit, I got a lot to say, not a lot of time left. I'm going to do what Scorsese are doing. I'm just going to start making those movies that I want to make, that I want to do. Maybe he'll do them.
And he did that with The Fabelmans, right? And it's been a couple of years. Was that 2021 or 2022 when that came out? But we haven't heard from another project, I think, since.
2022.
Yeah, I don't know if he's working on anything else at the moment, but yeah, hopefully we get
According to
a couple more films.
IMDb, which is obviously the most important of all of the ones, he is doing, as a director, the Thursday Murder Club, which is in pre-production. There's a Napoleon TV miniseries, which is in development, and an untitled Frank Bullitt project, which is in pre-production. So
Jesus.
Take that with a grain of whatever you want.
As a producer, he's tagged to 16 different projects. That is crazy. Gremlins 3, Real Steel 2, Robopocalypse.
But again, he has a production
film.
company, and he doesn't really have to do anything other than just sit there and fund movies that want to be made.
And then, do the ones he actually wants to do himself as a director. Yeah.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
Like, let people make the movies that they want to make, like Real Steel 2, and let me make the movies that I want to make, and let me keep producing those other ones. Like, he's an executive producer on Transformers 1. Wow.
Wait, he
doing
is?
God's work.
Why? What's he got to do with Transformers? And he's also...
It doesn't matter, because he's just giving them money. He could also just be like,
I guess,
helping them narratively, and then he gets an executive producing credit.
Well, that's that. Let's move on to something a bit less promising. Speaking of a filmmaker who's done work for like 50 years, original ideas that he propelled into blockbusters and franchises to come. What about Netflix? What if they got to contribute? Well, apparently their new strategy is to think more about audience, less about auteurs, and with that, they've canceled the next movie that they were working on with Catherine Bigelow. And Lachlan, what do you think about this latest cool decision by Netflix to, I guess,
what does that
do
mean?
more reality TV?
What does more about audience, less about auteurs mean?
They are bitter that, I guess, other companies are winning Oscars and they are not. And that's where that investments would pay off. And maybe they've realized that they have such a huge market share that whenever they have their licensed stuff hitting the streaming service, that's enough. And then we just create the slop around it. We don't need to spend 150, 200 million on a Martin Scorsese 3-hour-long project because that's not good for our bottom line. So let's focus more on the audience. And what does the audience want? What they get, usually. You're going to challenge your audience, but if Netflix thinks it's less about these auteurs is what the audience wants, then they're going to produce less of it. Which, disappointing if you couldn't tell by my tone.
Yeah. You know what? Sure. I just
More
discovered there's a Bruce Springsteen biopic with Jeremy Allen White starring in it. Apparently.
Yeah.
So there's another one. Oh my god, the biopic
Yeah.
century's up. Look, I can understand Netflix moving away from this now with I guess a new head. Kind of sucks that they want to drop
Netflix head.
Catherine Bigelow's movie.
Yep.
But apparently they left that ages ago.
Mm.
Who knows? I don't really
There's also
care.
a Michael Jackson biopic, by the way, while we're on the train of still.
Oh my god, while we're on the topic of biopics. That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh well, let's see. Look, Netflix is so far the only, in quotation marks, successful streaming company. So they are going to try whatever they want to try to be on top. And obviously they try to hit with giving people money to make movies that maybe they want to make. And they list a really good bunch of them here, with Scorsese, Alfonso Cuarón, Bradley Cooper making, Roma, Maestro, and The Irishman. But none of those films are what people want to watch, if that makes sense. When I say people, I don't mean the people who are listening to this podcast. I'm talking about the general public that subscribe to Netflix because it's easy to consume content. It's not easy to consume a 4-hour movie about gangsters. It's not easy to sell a black and white movie to general audiences, which Roma, black and white, Maestro, black and white sequences. It's got its moments in it that are going to be internet worthy. But the films, they don't really do much for anyone else. So while it sucks that they're not going to be producing some films, which I honestly quite enjoyed, I can kind of understand why they want to go away from it, because they list other films in here that they've done, like Red Notice, right? They did those big movies with these big stars and they flopped. They've done these auteur movies, they had big names and they flopped. Where do they go here? Audience, in quotations. What is that?
Yeah, it's also hard to predict audiences. Where do they go? What do they actually care about? But a safe bet is that, like, I noticed it myself. I like these movies, but when I'm on YouTube, for example, then when I see a 1 hour long documentary that goes into depth into something, like, that gets watch listed, I don't watch it immediately. It's way easier to watch, like, double or triple the amount of watch time in, like, a sloppy little other video that, like, has nothing to contribute other than maybe some stimuli and a bit of entertainment. But it's the lesser, if you were to qualitatively compare them, it's like night and day, obviously. But it's not what you watch every day, and that's where the hours are at, ultimately, So I understand it from the business standpoint. It doesn't mean that the other thing should be less focused on just because it's always going to be less consumed because it's a different thing. But not doing it anymore, I think, still is making them weaker in the long run. And we didn't talk about it before, but for the next Scorsese film, I think Sony and Apple are like trying to get the rights to distribute it. And Sony has been pretty smart about like not having their own streaming service and then selling it to someone like Netflix oftentimes. It's worked for them when it's not like, a Morbius or a Madam Web. I think they produce pretty stellar stuff, pretty good films overall. A bit more consistently than some other studios do. But yeah, Netflix is in the news. So, Boon Joon Ho is working on an animated feature, and Werner Herzog is set as the lead of it. And we haven't gotten Mickey 17 yet, and that got delayed. And I think that movie has been done, but they just want to push it back a bit further so it's more for awards maybe relevant, but they push it to January. I don't know what the deal is with that, but an animated film from Boon Joon Ho. What do you think about it, Lachlan?
Sounds good. I'm in.
Yeah, you're in?
You had me at Boon Joon Ho, and then you sold me at Werner Herzog.
You had me at the mispronunciation of Bong, and I was like, I'll hit that.
Yeah, sick. Boon Joon Ho and Werner Herzog, fantastic creatives. I also know that Herzog is very happy to voice his opinion, and I'm sure that if this goes in a direction where he's like, nah, this ain't cool, he'll probably just leave. But no, I think this would be kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I'm looking forward to anything Boon Joon Ho does for the next 15 years. He really has to have like really horrible projects for me to not be excited for what he's got in store next. Well, speaking of maybe slight disappointments, Damien Chazelle's next movie, which after Babylon kind of bombed, that was the tie over there, will be set in a prison. And I wrote down in my notes, maybe it's a documentary about him being in director's prison. Yeah, like, what do you think? Hell. Is it going to be a musical?
How have I done 182 episodes of this? Yeah, sure. I don't know much else other than it's set in a prison. Let's see what he does. Maybe it's Joker.
Maybe it is Joker. Make it, Arkham. It's just an Arkham movie. Yeah, that's his way of doing a one for you film.
Prison musical.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then lastly, final news item here is that a scary movie is seemingly getting rebooted. What do you think, Lachlan?
There's a whole new generation of horror movies for them to spoof. I'm so ready.
You ready? You keen?
Yeah.
All right. I think I liked the first one. I don't remember watching the rest of them other than maybe bits from them. So I don't know. I don't really care too much. But yeah, that's it for the news this week. Leave us a rating on Spotify. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. I said the YouTube channel again. Lachlan didn't call me out on it this time. I'm
I
a woke
won't.
guy.
Don't
He's
worry.
too relaxed. He's too relaxed from Bali. He's not like ready to call me out on this too much. And then yeah, if you want to support us directly by watching stuff, then if you use our Amazon links to rent and buy things, then yeah, we get a kickback from it, so that's greatly appreciated. So Lachlan, let's get to the stuff that we've been watching this week. And I think I'll kick it off first here. I'll because we are already doing a lot this episode. I think I'm gonna keep it brief. First up, the first episode of the Sympathizer, or the first two episodes. I think the first episode came out. The series, partly directed by Park Chan-wook. Really great show. I can recommend it, and maybe I'll talk about it a bit more in depth once it has wrapped. But I can really recommend it. Robert Downey Jr. in it as more of a side character. He plays like multiple different characters. It's set during the end of the Vietnam War, when we follow a sympathizer who's with the US, but he's actually secretly working for the Viet Cong. And kind of those dynamics that play out as he's kind of assimilated and forced into a more Western American lifestyle, and contrasting, like finding his own or losing his own identity, or maybe finding it for the first time. Really, really solid show, and I got to see the whole thing, and I can wholeheartedly say, yes, it's one of the best shows of the year. Definitely go check that out. Same goes for Ripley. I actually ended up watching the movie right after and was like, this is so whimsical and like out there, and we are just doing fan cams for these young actors. But Ripley, Andrew Scott as the lead here, is a bit more bleak and dark, but it's so incredibly well shot. Like the black and white really stands out. The story is a bit more direct without making it more of like a fantasy or oversimplifying stuff. It gets to have more time with all of the hideous things that he ends up doing. Ripley, I think, is so far in the year, behind Shogun, my second favorite show. So really can recommend that as well. And then Baby Reindeer, I saw that one being like coming up on Netflix charts, and I saw someone in like my mutuals giving it like a 1-star rating, and then I saw a bunch of ratings that were like 4.5, and I was like, okay, I'm intrigued, I'll watch it. And the show is, on its premise, basically a guy who's a bartender who does a favor to someone who comes in, and she grows obsessed, and we learn more and more about both of these. First, about her, about like the illness, the obsession that she has. She's a compulsive like stalker, and really ruins both of their lives in the process. And then we slowly get to see more of his life, and it's the lead guy also wrote it, so it's basically like autobiographical, and he gives context to it. And with that, he bears so much of himself in this that there's maybe like the assembly and the way that the story plays out isn't the best, but it feels really close to like a cathartic, like therapeutic thing as well for him to really lift this one out. It's like has a lot of nuances of disturbing self-destructive elements that we as humans have, and it gets to unpack them in a show that is filled with empathy and apathy for some of the actions of this stuff that people do, but also stuff that happens to them. And I think it ultimately like really surprised me, because I saw the preview for this and was like, this looks really fucking dumb. And then I watched it and was like, okay, this is way better than I expected. And it hit in a couple of moments. It gets into pretty serious places. Like a lot of trigger warnings are in place for these episodes as well. And yeah, I think that one is actually like pretty good. I didn't expect it to be like solid at all. Couple of movies, The Greatest Hits, out on Hulu, a really whimsical little film about, well, it's actually kind of sad, but girlfriend loses her partner and gets literally transported back in time when she hears the songs again, when they listen to it for the first time. And it's like, can she change the past or not? It's not really about that. She meets a new guy, and then it becomes all a bit messy, and I found it kind of charming. So yeah, The Greatest Hits, a pretty fun one. The Fall Guy, got to see this one early. We'll talk about it, I think, in 2 weeks. And yeah, I'll tell you more about it then. But great action showcase. Ryan Gosling is on a hot streak. You can't. The guy's too charming. It's infectious. That's all I say about The Fall Guy. And then yeah, watch Rebel Moon, the Scargiver. I don't know. I don't know what's up with this. So I watched it this morning, and it's just so perplexing to what they're doing with this, because essentially, like, about an hour's left in this film, right? And then they get to the fighting. But the first hour, they do more of like setups for all of these characters, which was the whole first film. Was like, hey, this is the new character, give them the whole backstory, and they do more of that. I was laughing at it. They have two different moments where they like come into the city and then they start like planting seeds, because they're like, hey, if we show that we are good farmers, then maybe they won't attack us for some. I don't know what the logic is there, but they have one, and then like they get gifts, and then they go by each character and tell you their traits. It feels like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and over, Ridley Scott has like a 3-page long thing for each character, and he reads them out to you. That's how this whole movie feels. It feels like a lore dump. And then they have another moment where they sit around the fireplace, and they each have a flashback moment that they go to. And I shit you not, that's like 15 minutes of the film. It's like, what is happening? And then the whole last bit, I think I kind of tuned out. I started working on the pre-production for this podcast, so I didn't even watch some of the actions. I just heard them scream and then looked back and forth. So I can't really tell you if the action's good, but look, if you look back and forth, you're probably still not the same shot because it's all in slow motion. Zack Snyder, it's fine if you don't direct anymore. We don't need it. He clearly doesn't have anything to tell. And the only thing that they seem to be obsessed with is that, hey, there's another director's cut for this. And Netflix feels like maybe that will get more interest for this if they tease that there's a director's cut. You're literally on a streaming service. There's no reason for it to cut anything out of it. So, yeah, it's not good, but it might be fun to watch if you're playing like a drinking game of with some kind of bullshit rules. Last two things. I also watched Late Night with the Devil this morning. I honestly didn't see if the AI thing didn't stand out to me. I know that was a really big deal to some people, but I feel like there's way bigger fish in the sea than like are abusing this in a way that is way more hurtful than what they do here. Maybe they took it out and replaced them. I don't know. But this is really a fun one that builds on the whole tension throughout. It basically sets it up as a recording that we get to see unfold. You see the in-betweens and like black and white when they're not on air, and they go back and forth as it slowly escalates more and more. It's not a perfect film, but it is really, really watchable. It only runs for 90 minutes, and it feels like it's 60. So yeah, I can recommend Late Night with the Devil. And then lastly, Michael Keaton directed the film. It's called Knox Goes Away, about a guy who gets a really severe case of dementia that is specifically like way faster than others would be, where he only has like 3 weeks left to live. And yeah, he's a hitman, and basically has to clean up his life as his estranged son, played by James Marsden, comes back into his life, and he has his own mess to clean up. And it's not very good with the logic, with the dementia. Is like very conveniently comes back in and out, and it's not like super well written, but it's not horrible. I heard some people really shit talk this film when it came out. I gave it like a 2 out of 5. It could certainly be worse. I watched the Scargiver this week. So yeah, that's all the stuff that I watched, Lachlan. So my monologue is done. So let's talk about something that you are really passionate about. I think you're a fan of the Fallout game series. So what did you think of this first season of the show?
Well, it was super exciting to hear that they're making a show about Fallout. I really do hold the games quite close to my heart. I first played Fallout 4 and then went through and played 3. I've dabbled with the original, which are completely different to like the open world first person perspective It's a top-down, and I've played that, and I've enjoyed it, and I have played 76. The only one I haven't played is New Vegas, which, as we talk, I am currently downloading it on my Steam Deck so that... Oh, it's downloaded! So I can play it, because the show has definitely raised my interest back into the world of Fallout, and the show had a good head start to the race. It had Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy producing it, who are the producers and creators of the Westworld series, which I think was really well done and really well adapted from that original idea. And they've done a really great job adapting the best aspects of Fallout, and realizing, and this is the most important part about adapting video games, you don't adapt everything. There are certain elements that work well in games. There are certain elements that work well in film and TV. They don't always adapt well and come across to each other, which is why games have notoriously been terrible and hard to adapt, because people have been adapting it wrong.
Yeah.
Shows like The Last of Us are a great example of a great TV show adapted from a game. But the thing is, The Last of Us was very cinematic and very film-like already, and those are the elements that they brought over. It's the same thing here. They realized that this is a really rich world and really fun idea to play with, especially with the ideas of these big companies capitalizing on the end of the world, the super crazy world on the outside, how great everything looks on the underneath side in the vault, when really it's a masquerade of fake lies and tests and experiments. So seeing a lot of the stuff from the game not so much be like a reference or like a nod, but actually seeing them being used. Like first of all, I wrote a list of like a bunch of them as I saw them come through. You obviously see things like Nuka-Cola, Grognak on the TV, having like the thumbs up be like a backstory, which was really cool. Dog meat, obviously from Fallout 4. You've got the Brahmin, which is like the two-headed cow thing. The NCR Ranger armor, which is on like Fallout New Vegas's cover art. You get a lot of these really cool things that you see, and they're really great because some of them, they go, oh, this is from the game, and they use it as like a nod. Like you can see like a mini nuke in one of the scenes, but they never really use a mini nuke because that would be fucking ridiculous. I hope eventually that they bring it in because that'd be cool. And they don't really bring things like the Death Claw into it because that would be crazy just to throw into it, because it'd seem like they're just trying to get everything into it. They nod to it, but they don't have it in there. Same thing with the I can't remember what they called, but like the automaton robot that was in the sand. Like they exist. These robots exist, but they're not shown as like a villain. So it's super exciting to see them adapt it. I think overall, narratively, they did a great job intertwining all the storylines, which I think is probably the hardest thing for them to do. I think the main story is a little bit meh. I think there is a lot more fun doing the smaller stories, whether it be Vault 4, whether it be what's going on in the Brotherhood of Steel. A whole bunch of that was more exciting, or like figuring out what the thing is with Vault 31, 32, 33. But overall, I think the show does a really good job adapting the world style humor, which is the big thing, is that Fallout is very much almost a comedy, and they do that really well with how overly violent things will be. There was a moment that actually made me audibly laugh out loud, which was the I'm simply just gonna harvest your organs. Like that was great, right? That was just like was so deadpan. It was fantastic. And then they give you enough to kind of build the world out. So I know it's already been renewed for a second season, which gets me super excited. I was really hoping they would close this story off and they would do a anthology series, because the best thing about Fallout is each game is sort of elsewhere in America, and that was the best part, is that you're taking yourself to a different part of the world or different part of the country, and it all feels different and plays different. And I was hoping they would do that with this, but they end up extending the story, and obviously there'll be a second season, yada yada yada. But I was really hoping that they would wrap this up. That's done, and then they go like do a West Virginia, do like a New York, do Florida. Like give me places in the country we haven't been to in the games, because at the end they do show They are in California in this series, so they do show a particular city which is in the games, which is one that I'm downloading. And they tease you with that, but I was really hoping they would kind of wrap it up and do something else in the second season. But I think they did pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, as you were talking about Fallout, I did see that on Steam they have it on sale.
They're on sale,
I'm notorious for buying games that I don't play.
You pay for Prime, yeah? You pay for Prime, yeah?
I don't. No, I don't. I saw that it's on. I saw that.
It's free.
That
like
for
Fallout
the duration,
76 is free on Prime Gaming.
I think they launch it or have like a weekend where it was free, and I did play it for a bit, and it really wasn't my thing because I hadn't played it like anything like that.
That's fair.
Yet
the thing is, Bethesda games, you have to, and it's the same thing with Starfield. You have to like what they do to play them, and some people the way that Bethesda does it kind of sucks for gameplay. It's quite repetitive. We're not a video game podcast. We're a movie podcast. But yeah, I can see why like some people don't enjoy it. Some people do. For me, I've liked Bethesda games for a while, so I don't mind the mechanics. But for me, it was great to see another video game adaptation done well, and hopefully this is the pillar that they needed to get over. Like 2 really good adaptations within like a couple of years to make them go, all right, cool. There's some cool stories to be told over in that space. We should bring it to audiences that haven't seen it. And I think that like it's a really good world for people to get invested into, and then they'll go play the games, and maybe they won't play the games. They'll just wait for the second season. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
It made me very keen to like actually check out the world, because it felt like I'm missing out by not already knowing a lot about it, but at the same time it was an introduction to like you said, all of the what is it called, MNCR, or what is it,
NCR armor.
Yeah, that's like the more of like the rebels, right? In there is that like the institution?
It's from New Vegas, which is the only one I haven't played. So I know it's like the best. It's like meant to be the best one. And
so far I've only played Fallout Shelter.
That counts. It counts. I re-downloaded it on my phone, so it kind of counts.
I have 40 hours on that on Steam. I think I just left it open, but I've played it on my that's a fairly addictive game as well. Just because it's like min-maxing your stuff. It feels kind of fun, even though I don't really play a lot of like games in general, but also just more iPad, like iPhone type of games. I did already own Fallout 4 and New Vegas. I've just bought 1, 2, and 3 as well. And I will, because I like to own the whole thing. And then I just kind of want to, I have this obsession of getting through something fully. So I'd want to start with 1 to like kind of build on it. So yeah. That's kind of my thing. I don't know. I think you already went into a lot of depth about like what the show works, and I agree with pretty much like all of it. I think maybe the production design, I don't know if you talked about that, but that's something that stands out as well. It's great. Where you can see that like the world building really does a lot. More than just, I guess, hey, here's a thing I recognize, but the world kind of, I think Fallout lends itself to that. Like these dystopian worlds lend themselves to it, that you need a center point that people interact with. And then a lot of the extending reality of the place, you can add a lot with effects and it still kind of works. Whereas that becomes more difficult when you have like a bustling, like a live world around it. But I mean, just the bits that went back to like that pervert guy who fucks chickens. Just like that thing that he kept reappearing and like, it's funny. It's pretty funny. And most of the jokes actually land. So if you haven't seen it yet, Fallout will likely make you a fan of the series and of the games. But that's it for that. I think rating wise, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. I'm like between a 6 and a 7 out of 10 for the show. I think it's pretty solid overall.
I'd say like a 3.5, 4 out of 5.
Let's get to the much anticipated Civil War, the biggest A24 film that they've ever made. And I skipped over you. Sorry. That's going to cause a civil war in our own ranks if I do that. And Kevin doesn't
I got to open the package that I have no idea what's in it. And it's not open yet. I'm gonna
Yeah.
open it now. I have no idea what's in it. I have been gifted a gift. I know
Yeah.
I can hear discs. I'm pretty sure. So it's gonna be a movie of some kind, or maybe a TV show of some kind. So it's a live. I'm facing it the other way so that I don't get doxed. Okay. I'm gonna open it over here.
It's being very
Can't
careful
get
with it.
open. I'm trying not to.
This is it's
Alright,
giving you
ready?
enough time to switch from podcast to video.
Okay. It feels like discs. So I'm keen.
Yeah, there's 3 movies.
Ooh, okay. What we got here? Johnny Toe films.
Yes, we watched Selection 1 and 2, which you can check out our review for those on the channel. And yeah, Kevin, I think wanted to extend that and send you a couple more to
Yeah.
get you.
All right, I'll go
get
through them
you
really
to see more
quickly.
of them.
Summer Time Machine Blues, which is one of the craziest
That's a crazy title.
Title I've ever heard. This is exciting. Directed by Katsuhiko Motohiro. I probably just butchered that, so that's a bit different.
Yeah, I'm not familiar
That's
with
exciting.
the title or the movie.
Let me see, collect this booklet. Ooh, sorry, I'm reading all the special features now. 2005. My God. Exiled.
Exile. Okay.
Johnny Toe.
Is this the Johnny Toe?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2006.
That's 6. Yep. Very cool. And then Breaking News. Another one.
Okay. Not a Johnny Toe.
Hong Kong. Yeah. I have no idea. Which makes me more excited to watch these because these could just be. This gives me Boondock Saint vibes.
Yeah.
Which could be an insult or a compliment depending on the film. And then
Depending on how you take that.
this gives me Boondock Saint vibes, but in red. So I'm super keen. This just gives me. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into vibes.
It looks a bit like the Boogie Nights.
That's just over 90 minutes. That is exactly 90 minutes. And is this 109 minutes as well? So they're all
Kevin knew what he
thing.
was doing. Yeah.
Long films that you can just get in, out, addicted with. And yeah. No, this is sick. I am super keen. Hang on. They look like they're in a particular order because they have numbers here. So I wonder if I have to watch them in this order. I have no idea.
But yeah, you'd have to check with Kev. But yeah, he sent you a present.
I have
he
to
was like I think he asked me when your birthday is. Like mate, you passed you too late. I was like, well, early birthday present or something like that.
I got an app that catalogs all my movies, so I just got to add them to it.
Oh.
So if you want to do you want me to read the thing and then you can do your intro thing and then I can add them to my
Sure, yeah, I'll get the introduction for Civil War going. Well, do you want to read the logline for Civil War, or should I?
No,
do
you
that
you do your thing. I'll join in. I'm just getting everything up and ready.
Well, Civil War is out in theaters now, and like I said, it's A24's biggest opening to date. I think it had a budget of roughly 60 million-ish. It's the first film that claimed the #1 spot at the domestic box office. But it's also been like one of the weaker weeks. If you look at it, we are currently below the line of the average of like 2017 to 19 when it comes to films, and even I think below that when it was for the last like couple of years. But regardless, Civil War got the first place, and it's the highest opening for A24 so far. It's been received, I think, so far pretty positively on most places. I don't know if that will change as more and more people talk about it online, but so far it's a 3.7 on Letterboxd, a 7.6 on IMDb, and a 75 on Metacritic. So pretty even all across the board, which usually, if there was some sort of general divide, you would certainly see it on IMDb the most, but it even has a kind of a higher average rating than on Letterboxd for the film. And yeah, Lachlan, you want to read us the logline for the film?
A journey across a dystopian future America, following a team of military-embedded journalists as they race against time to reach DC before rebel factions descend upon the White House.
Yes, and it stars familiar faces in Alex Garland's filmography, like a Nick Offerman, who we saw in Devs. Kirsten Dunst, I don't think has been in his films. No. Definitely not. I guess it's just Nick Offerman who's familiar, and Kaylee Spaney, and Stephen McKinley Henderson. Actually, it's a lot of the people who were in Deaths, is what I'm noticing right now. And then we also got like a smaller role from Jesse Plemons, which I believe was like something that they did pretty spontaneously. He's the husband to Kirsten Dunst, and she suggested him for the role. And my God, they used him for the promotion. That scene is thrilling, and as much as people are going to discuss a film in an election year for the States that is really not concerned with the current landscape of politics in the US, by kind of putting a middle finger up to it and making California and Texas united against like a fascist dictator president that they have to overthrow. It's not really about that. It seems to be sort of a US with how they are ready to take up arms for things, but not with like current politics. It seems to be less concerned about that. And I think that's going to have a lot of people talking, a lot of people disagreeing, a lot of people saying maybe this film has nothing to say if it doesn't attach itself to real politics that are happening. But I think this movie is way more concerned about observing war by making the central characters photojournalists that are not taking a particular side, that are also exploitative of like in a way by nature needing to exploit the violence, but also needing to capture it for people to know what's going on. So it's like a double-edged sword for them. But yeah, Lachlan, what did you make of Alex Garland's fourth feature, Civil War?
So I will say I am a fan of Garland. I love his work, especially the 4 films that he's done. I do hold them all to high standards. The only one that I've actually got a rating for on Letterboxd is Men, and that's 3.5. And I hold Annihilation and Ex Machina higher than Men, which is crazy to think that his lowest rated film for me right now is a 3.5, where I would be rating these higher. And I think this is also a banger. I actually am on the side that says this film is pretty damn good, and I actually have a decent amount to say with this film compared to other ones, because it's one of the first films where after I left the cinema, I was reading through a bunch of articles and reviews on it, and I could see a very clear split of people. People who were saying, hey, this film is great, spectacular, yada, yada, yada. And then there were people who were saying things like, the film has nothing to say, it doesn't align itself with a political ideology, yada, yada, yada. And they rail on that. And I don't think that the film... We'll get into that for. I do agree with a lot of the points that they make. I think that the worst part about this film is its themes, and they never really come full circle. This film says a lot, and I don't think anyone who says this film says anything really saw the same film that I saw, because for me, it throws a lot at you, but it never really comes full circle on that. For me, the entire running time of the film is great. I think it's awesome. I think dialogue can be a bit sucky at times. I think the only part that sucks for me personally is the last 5 to 10 minutes. That's the only part of the film I was a bit disappointed with.
Man, back-to-back weeks.
Whole scene level. But with Civil War, it does have a lot to say. So I don't know where we really want to start. Do we want to start story? Do we want to start technical stuff? Do we want to start themes?
Before we get to the ending, I think before we get to the ending, which we're gonna not shy away from spoilers here as we always do, but I think when we get to like really an end point, we're gonna emphasize again that this is now a spoiler. So I feel like we can very much talk about the tech stuff first, because I feel like it's integral, sometimes a bit more than its actual story to what it's doing. And from what I found really interesting is that Garland, he's done a lot of interviews, which, had the run of him quitting directing. Is like, what? He's not doing, well, he's just writing. He's literally working on the third 28 days or 28 years or whatever it's going to be called then, later film on those. It's something that he does here that is unique in the way that he describes these war films that aren't truly anti-war, because they still make it's sort of, when you make it exciting, it's by the nature of documenting it. Like that kind of thrill that you feel for just watching something that has a lot of stakes unfold in front of you, presenting that in a way that is still in the message that what you're seeing is bad, but you are consuming it. You're not like, it's not being documented and you take something away from it. It's still a consumption. You're watching a film. And I think what he captures here is stylistically and especially technically the way that the gunfire sounds. It feels different than from other films. It feels way more like it's going to shock you each time it's happening, because I don't know what it is. I think it sonically is a bit different. I don't know if you noticed that as well.
So I did read that they didn't really do too much editing with the gunshot sound effects. They wanted it to have more of an impact. They wanted it to be there. So whilst they might have turned down other effects, I don't think they turned down gunfire, because it was really in your face. It was really loud. And I think the first part technically is like this. Everything when it comes to audio for this film is A pluses. I think that the sound design is incredible. I heard that the sound design was great, so I made sure I went to Adobe Atmos screening for this film, and I'm so glad I did, because at times I was just immersed with how it sounded, especially during action and the tense scenes. You are, especially the action tense scenes, they're just in your face with sounds, but at the same time they cut everything out and then you are left with silence. And it's the same sort of effect you get with Oppenheimer, and spoilers for Oppenheimer, but the moment the bomb drops, you can hear people gasping in the audience because it goes silent. Same thing here. There are atrocities happening on screen. You can hear people going, and you can experience that with people around you. And I think they use silence to such a really cool effect, which is really interesting to say that they do sound design so well, and then they also use silence in really good moments. I think by the end, some of the silence gets a little bit too overused. And again, I think the last part of the film just doesn't fall into like where the rest of the film lies. And we can get into that shortly, but sound design was spectacular. I found the score horrifying, just the weird tones that they were using just to play sound. And it didn't even feel like music. It felt distorted. Compared
that's a very Garland thing,
Yeah, compared to the poppy, the poppy music that they had for the soundtracks. So they have a couple of needle drop moments in this film, and the music just doesn't seem to fit the image, but it works so well to have this sort of pop music. I don't know really if I can define it as pop music, because I don't really know how to define music genres, but it doesn't feel like it should work when you're watching this film. But like everything from audio is just, fuck man, it's spectacular. It's incredible. And that's matched with incredibly good visuals, which is Garland's sort of like signature thing, being like, hey, here's a movie and here's some really cool pretty images that you can stare at.
Yeah, I think the production design stands out because it doesn't overcomplicate things in a lot of moments. I feel like he is able to get the essentials. That's why, like, when we talked about devs the other week, where like the sci-fi stuff, or the over-the-top elements that it needs to visualize that reality is maybe a bit reaching on what he's capable of doing, but it feels like he learned something from that. I think when it's used in Men, it's done effectively. It's disturbing, but it's done effectively. And here as well, I think the tech stuff really stands out in only good ways, but slowly making our way to that ending that I agree I am not in love with. I also was kind of thinking, hey, is this where they're gonna go when they said a certain thing? And sure, he did. I was like, that's disappointing, because I predicted it. But from the characters that we get, is there any standout from Lee, Kirsten Dunst, Joel Wagner-Moura, Kaylee Spaney, Sammy, Stephen McKinley Henderson? Do you have a favorite, or like a theme that they went through that you found compelling?
Not necessarily. Just before we wrap on visual stuff, this film was shot on one cinema, like a cinema camera, which is the Sony Venice, but then also listed is the Ronin 4D and the Sony A7S III, which is the camera that I use, and also very affordable cameras other than the Venice, but they, similar to how the creator used FX. I think they use FX3s and the Sony A7S III as well for their stuff. I
Yeah.
think it's really cool that some of these films are using this, and it makes sense that they used it for the visual style of how the film is shot. There are a lot of
Was it any
handheld
for
moments
the?
there.
Does it say what they use for? Because like Candy Spaney's character shoots on film. And I think Lee is shooting digital.
So yeah,
if I
Lee.
remember
So
correctly.
Lee shoots on a Sony Alpha because they don't actually have the Sony blocked out on the thing, but they've got the Alpha symbol still
Yeah.
there, and you can see the G lenses in it. And then you've got Jesse shooting on Nikon film cameras. But for me, this
Yeah.
will come to a point later on. But I also want to know what lenses they were shooting on because the film has some really cool visual stuff with like flaring and stuff. I'm not sure if it was done
Yeah.
post shot or if it was done in camera, because if it was done in camera, I think it's gorgeous, and I think it comes down to the lenses. But I just wanted to note that the film was shot on some really cool cameras which are affordable to, again, I say affordable, like Sony Venice is like $20,000, $30,000, and the A7S III is like $5,000. So it's like affordable in the sense of what a cinema camera is. But for the acting, unfortunately, when it comes to this, like, I think they all did a fantastic job. I don't think anyone really stood out for me. Kristen Dunst is probably the best of them all, and I think that her mother figure, this mentorship that she's doing with Jesse is really exciting. And it's like the only interesting character element. But for me, one of the flaws of this film is it's essentially a glorified road trip movie. That's almost done episodically with its moments. They never really give you enough time for the character, and they have moments that you can, but they never really have enough time for the character development to breathe and for them to really bond, to make you care about this almost ragtag group of people. The only people that we know are together are like Lee and Joel, and those two are like partners. But then you've got Sammy, who's at a different agency that he's tagging along, and then you've got Jesse, who's this person who wants to be Lee and is tagging along. They obviously have to start off with hostility, but then they should kind of bring it together, and they do that with Lee and they do that with Jesse, but you never really get that with Sammy. You never really get that with Joel. You get moments, but they never really build on it. So for me, I don't really find any of the performances incredible compared to past performances, but I think that because they're focusing on 4 characters and not like a solo, like maybe 2, like they have an X-Mach, 3 if you consider AI, and then like the only other one I can think of is Annihilation, but that is a lot more character heavy than it is action heavy. So I feel like that's a better example of like a road trip movie with a group of them. So yeah, I don't really have anyone that stands out, which sucks.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it did kind of feel similar. I feel like Joel's main thing is that he doesn't really care. I feel like he's someone who doesn't really care about the others, and then he's also hitting on Jesse. And I think that's kind of the only thing he does in the film. And then like Lee is going from not caring, just being like really shielded through her job about like maybe caring a bit as it's happening so close to maybe a home. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but as she sees herself like a younger version of it getting like roped in, and to me, like, that part you could have done more interestingly. I think this is a fair point to talk about that ending, because that's the issue that I have with it. It's like, here, big spoiler warnings. But when she's killed, right? She's shot, and Jesse takes the shot, and they earlier said they have an exchange where Jesse asks if Lee would photograph her if she got killed, and she says yes, and then they reverse it. And to me, that was like, okay, well, one of these two is going to die. They're probably going to switch it, and that's exactly what happens. And maybe that's just a screenwriter in Garland who's like, ooh, that's a good, setup and conclusion to this, and it will play out fully. That relationship wasn't enough for it to be like this really big moment of Jesse using Lee, and then it also is so rushed into they got to get to the president because that's the ultimate like thing that they set out to do. If it were to not focus on that, and like Jesse stays back, and then they do the stuff with with the president, and it's more about like her coming to terms of what she has basically just done. That would have been a more interesting moment to me, but ultimately it's her final step of like moving on past Lee to basically get another shot. I don't know. I feel a bit conflicted about the ending. I think it has interesting elements here, the complexities of these characters, but if it fully gets to visualize them to make them come alive, I don't know if it does that successfully the whole. But yeah, what do you think about the ending, or what did you not like about it?
So I agree. When I heard that conversation with, if I was to be shot, would you photograph it? I thought, okay, cool. That's gonna loop back, right? After all,
Yeah.
Garland is a very competent writer. He is a writer first, director second, but he's a writer-director for the last 4 films that he's pretty much done. The moment for me, the moment where, again, spoilers here, the moment from when Sammy dies, the film like is actually seen dead in the window, does it for me, and it kind of declines from there. Because it immediately cuts to it cuts to Sammy in the window, and then Lee deleting the photo, to then a conversation between Lee and Joel with the other 2 journalists, which were introduced earlier in the film and then are brought back in, which I was like, cool, no worries. With that, there's a conversation where it just goes, we know how much something meant to you, to Lee. And I'm going, hang on a second here. This film has been predominantly show, don't tell, because that is one of the like golden rules with filmmaking. You really want to show, don't tell. You don't want to have to just spoon feed it. And from there, the film kind of goes away from where the rest of the film is. To start off with, when I heard the premise of Civil War, I got excited because we have a lot of war movies, right? We have a lot of war movies, but we don't really have a lot, if any, of modern day in America warfare. We've got sci-fis of it. We've got aliens
Purge
invading,
and
right?
stuff
But
like
we don't Purge, but we don't have modern day tactical warfare in America. And that is immediately a very interesting visual film, because you have iconic monuments such as like the Washington was it Washington Monument, the big obelisk pillar thing. You've got the Lincoln Memorial in DC. You've got the White House example. The poster has the Statue of Liberty, one of the most iconic things in New York. There's shots of snipers on buildings next to multi-story complexes. There's shots of the One World Trade Center and people fighting, and it's really a very interesting looking film from that idea, because we are in this reality, we might be only 2 or 3 dominoes away from that being a reality. And for people who are saying this film doesn't have much to say, I think you said it earlier, a war film shouldn't have to say anything. You should just watch it and go, fuck, I don't want that to be a thing.
Yeah.
Right? There should be no war film that makes you go, fuck yeah, we should do that, right? So people who are saying this film doesn't say anything, the film says enough by existing, by visually showing people what this could be like if this was to happen. Because seeing humans kill humans in this kind of sense where it's almost reality, and I'm not saying like we are on that path of reality, but in a sense where it's very much structured in a serious sense, in a reality.
Yeah.
Why the fuck is the president in the White House? Why the fuck is he not in the middle of some fucking random place?
Yeah, that's
I
don't know.
How the fuck has he survived this long in an area that is literally surrounded by these forces? And from there, I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm being spoon-fed this information about
belt that he like. It used to be that like,
but
that's.
I'm being spoon-fed this information about Sammy and Lee having this relationship that was never spoken about, right? We knew that they knew each other, but we didn't realize how much he meant to her, right? So this impactful death, which I think is already like not that impactful, but like to her it's a massive thing. She's not showing anything. Joel is, right? Lee's calmly just processing everything. To then a gunfight, which we know that the WF force, I think it's the WF forces, are going to win. For some reason, the president's in DC, which makes no sense in this world where everything else I can logically think of, right? Like, you're at a gas station and it's being run by these people who have guns. They're not picking a side. They're just protecting their land. That would make sense in a situation like this where it's all about individual freedoms and things like that. There's a lot of different reasons for war to begin, right? And this one being called a civil war, I don't really think makes a whole lot of sense, because usually it's like two sides fighting for like the other, like obviously American Civil War, like one was pro-slavery, one was anti-slavery. There's a lot more reasons, but that's like the two main sides. This is more like almost like a revolutionary war, I guess, where they're trying to overthrow the government more than anything else, and there's a bunch of different forces at play that want to try to take power, but that's what this kind of war is. And then you've got other wars, like obviously like World War One is like a nationalism, like people were proud to be like, oh, we should be more powerful, we should take these countries because we're more powerful. And then you've got like revenge ones, which are like World War II, right? Because then the Germans were like, we want revenge, so we're going to take it back.
Well,
so there's a lot of reasons for war, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the reasons for war in this aren't really presented. The themes of this film,
that's not at all what
they're
it's about.
thrown out, but they're never really brought together. It's really just showing you the horrors of war, which should be enough to be a powerful image. And I think the other theme, and this is the only theme I think they really reinforce, is it's the power and importance of journalism.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean,
how
you haven't seen 20 Days in
be.
Mariupol yet, but that's exactly that, where they struggle to get the footage out, and as there's only Russian forces by the invasion who can send out their stuff about like what they're actually doing, because they are attacking. They struggle to get the stuff sent out, which is then you see pop up, and they contextualize it in that was what they got, and that was what the media was running on, was their coverage from there. Otherwise, we don't have any information. And essentially, that lack of information is what feeds then into the sniper thing, where they're basically just like there and have to stake out another person who's shooting at them. And when they ask like, which side are you on? Like, who are you shooting? It's like, I don't know, the guy who shot at us, the other guy with the gun. So that's why we're here. We're shooting at each other because we're shooting at each other. And it's like, okay, I think with an exchange of information, we could resolve this. But that's the lack of it, that like we ultimately, with a lack of information, that leads to violence. So that's why contextualizing that is so important with photojournalism.
That's my favorite scene, by the way.
It's so good. Yeah.
That's my favorite scene. I personally think that the scene with Jesse Plemons is actually it's so close to being perfect, but they ruin it by him shooting somebody. I think that once that, because they build this tension of who is this person, and then again, this is where like we can pick the flaws in it, but that particular scene, once he shoots someone, we know what the stakes are. We know who's the bad guy, who's a good guy. But I love playing.
They even had it in the trailer.
And again, one of the themes of this film is sort of like the moral ambiguity. Ambiguity? What did I just say? Ambiguity of people. And because you don't really know what forces everyone's on. There's not really a defined, like, here's this, like, there's no strategy, right? Like, if you watch a World War II film, you kind of know who's going to be the good guy and the bad guy from the start. With this one, you have no idea. And a lot of these people, like, in war, like, war never changes. There's a quote, throwback to Fallout. With like war, no one really wins. And there are going to be offshoots of atrocities that happen, similar to what happens with Jesse Plemons' character. And you don't know where he morally stands at that point, right? Throughout the entire thing. He's moving his gun around, people kind of, and the tension builds. But as soon as he shoots someone for no reason, you kind of go, all right, cool, bad guy. The rest of the scene plays out, and it does go for a decently long time. There's no tension building. For me, the Winter Wonderland is just continuous tension building to just bang. Great news, guys. And then scene change. So, and unfortunately, like, from, like, the ending, like, the president being there, like, dumb. I think the like, I need a quote from him, like, please don't let him kill me, please don't let him kill me. Like, that was dumb. I really wanted, right? Like, I really wanted something, and I think the most important theme that this film talks about, other than, like, the importance of journalism, perspective, because obviously they talk, there's so many themes that they throw at you, Like the biggest one that I felt like they never really come back around on, and I think they kind of fuck it up in a way because they talk about how they want to. What was the quote? I wrote it down. We record so other people ask. Right? So they talk about how they don't really want to pick a side. They record so other people can ask. The problem I have with that, right? The problem I have with that is with photography, you have one opportunity to tell a story. You can't really be morally neutral because you have to be on one of the sides to take war photography. You either have to be on one side or the other, and it's a perspective thing. So you're giving as a war journalist, you are on a side, right?
I mean, at
So
least
you
if
can't
there's
really-
like a heinous thing being committed that you want to capture that's worth, then the side that's committing it is likely not letting you document it.
Yeah, so it's a bit dumb that they talk about how they want to take photos so people can ask and they want to be neutral, and how like their families are at home pretending like none of this ever happens, and they're kind of just like taking photos being like, this is just a normal day in my life, right? So like the film fumbles a lot of its themes, but I think that the one of journalism, it does kind of nail quite well. And I think that the other one is just how desensitized we get to this kind of stuff. And I think two real life examples are Ukraine and what's happening in Gaza. How the first few images you see, you're horrified, and then months later you're just like, okay, there's another image. Because you're just used to it at that point.
Yeah. To me, especially in Gaza, I had to cut myself off of it because I was consuming too much of it because it felt like you're looking away in a way, and it's but to I don't know, it was too heavy, not in a way of ignorance, just because it feels so frustrating because you have no power and say of doing anything about it. But with them, they're like so close to it. It does feel a bit different than them just documenting it.
With Jessie, she obviously is quite shaken at first, and then at the end, she's in there. She's with the action. She's not afraid. She's desensitized. The only problem I have is that she's very quickly desensitized from like, actually not that quickly, but is immediately in there with it.
Yeah. Do you think she did that on purpose, on stepping out, on to get something out, like to get like a big moment, or was it just her naivete, just being dumb?
Naivete, being young, you know. I'm sure Kristen Dunst's character's been shot. I'm sure Joel has been shot. They had to take risks to get those photos, and it's just whether she stepped out on purpose or whether she didn't. I don't think she personally did. I think that it was just, naivety. But I just didn't think that Kristen character, like when she died, she just died. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever.
I think that moment wasn't
impactful
shot.
moment. No.
I think visually it was really strong, and that moment didn't work for me visually. With like the amount of slow motion that was in it. I think it played off, to me, it feels weird to say, it played off cheesy. To the way that he executed it.
And I think that for the rest of the film, the moments that they shoot and they pause for a second, right? It goes quiet, plays the shot. A lot of those, and throughout the film, you can take a screenshot and it tells a really good story. And a lot of those images are really good stories and really good, powerful things to talk about. That moment doesn't have that for me. And I don't know why, but I think it's just because I'm not really emotionally invested in this character. And there's, it's the moment of her death. And the rest of these have been used to tell a story, but other than her sacrificing herself, that's the only thing I can see, but it doesn't have any weight to it because I don't really care for the character, and whatever. So for me, the ending of the film kind of shits the bed with bringing it all together. But I didn't like the moment either. I didn't like how it just like shooting the last picture of it being like slow-mo, black and white, shot to her with the thing, like sure, whatever, but like it just doesn't flow that well at the end.
Yeah. I mean, some people were also talking about the lead up to Jesse Plemons' scene of Jesse just switching cars while they're driving. But it's like a reckless, dumb thing to do. And I don't know, that scene didn't stand out to me as being like really over the top. It to me felt like another screenwriter thing that was like, okay, we gotta switch up who's with who. So they forced a change while driving. To kind of that makes sense of her doing an over-the-top thing leading into the next scene where there's already like stakes there because one of our characters is already at a threat, and then the others have to decide what to do. It's effective
Well, the thing is-
story-wise, screenplay setup-wise.
Yeah.
I don't think for the characters it doesn't make too much sense. So it's like you said,
Yeah.
the episodic thing of thrusting us into a premise that is interesting, but all of it connecting, interweaving. There's stuff missing. Yeah.
You know how I said I felt Devs was written as a movie, then separated into a TV show?
Mhm.
I honestly feel Civil War was a TV show into a movie.
It's certainly one that you could further dive into and extend. Yeah,
And would
I
have
could
worked
see
better
that.
as a TV show.
I don't know. I think that's like a catch-all thing sometimes to say, because it's like it's hard to say if it. I don't know if it closes at a certain point and you pick back up, if that like in that sense that it's episodic, that it works better. I don't know if always extending stuff makes it ultimately like a better story, but I don't know. We're probably missing stuff. There was also like controversy about like them using AI as promotion. I feel like it plays into the hands of A24 to just be talked about, because there was bound to be controversy with a film called Civil War in an election year, where some of the side are like calling it out for having a president that overstays its term, and they see the parallels to maybe a real life president, which ultimately is really telling about your president when you see him be close to like a fascist dictator. I think that tells more about your president and like, I don't know, than it does about the film. Like we said, I don't think it has much to do with real life politics at the moment, although it's depicting something that could very much be a reality that is fortunately not ours. Is wrong to say, because we're both not from America, but not theirs.
It's just funny that another British person pissed off an American.
Yep.
Alex Garland being British.
Yeah, we love to see it.
Yeah.
Anyways, rating wise, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it is probably better than Man. But I like it less than the other two. I like it a bit more than Devs, so that's where it would slide in his filmography. But I think it's very much worthwhile to catch in theaters as well, because that sound is what really sells the film more than the visuals, I'd say. So Dolby Atmos, 3.5 out of 5.
I like it more than Men. I liked it more than Devs. I think I like it more than Annihilation. I don't think I like it more than Ex Machina. So for me, I'm currently putting it at a 4 because I think it was fun, good, enjoyable for the majority of the runtime. I was engaged. The tense scenes made me feel tense. 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. All right, let's go with that. Double feature wise, Lachlan, what do you pair up with ongoing
Have you seen
warfare?
what I wrote?
I did see. Do you? Fuck, I don't have one. Just watch this movie again, I guess. Garland's film, always great on a rewatch. And then you list a bunch of war films, or I'd say considerably anti-war films that are not all of them, but some of them do successfully convey that they are truly anti-war.
Yeah.
But the other one's Black Hawk Down, which doesn't feel.
Which is just fucking sick. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you want to read out your picks, the multiple picks that you could go with there?
Monos, Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Black Hawk Down, All Quiet on the Western Front, Platoon.
And I'm gonna go with
Come and See as well. I haven't
Come.
seen it.
Oh yes, I'm not gonna grab my Blu-ray, but it's right over there.
Don't worry. I got you.
It's great film. I went with another classic, although Come and See would get my recommendation any day of the week. But The Battle of Algiers, movie from 1966, that is about the messy parts of war in Algeria. With the like occupation of the French in the 50s. I think it's a really messy film. And shows all of that, where kind of terrorism and being a rebel are intertwined. It's complex. I think it's a terribly well done war film. So that's my double feature pick. If you see the empty seat, I'm gonna close this out myself, because you see the on this screen on this side you have the posters for it. But Lachlan's not here right now. Anyways, new releases this week. We don't have as much as we had. We have a consistent big film week after week for like a month. So that's very exciting. But out on April 22nd, we have Luca Guadagnino's The Delayed Challenges with Zendaya, Mike Feist, and I'm blanking on the third guy's name. There's also a re-release of Alien. Very excited about that. I think it's the 45th anniversary of the film. So yeah, go check that out. I would like to, but I don't think it's screening anywhere here for me. But catching that on the big screen would be a sight to behold. Then on VOD, we are already getting Monkey Man and Love Lies Bleeding, and the first season of Knuckles will premiere all of its episode over on Paramount Plus, I think is where that's going to land. Then in limited release in the States, we are getting Boy Kills World. Lachlan's really excited about that one. That one's out a week after in Australia. No release for me personally here. And then out in Switzerland, we do have the aforementioned Love Lies Bleeding, but you can also kind of catch that on digital, but it is out in theaters here. That brings us to the end of the show this week. Next week, we're talking about Luca Guadagnino's challenges. Then the week after, we're talking about Ryan Gosling in The Fall Guy. And then we have Planet of the Apes. After that, there's, I think, If, but by the time that comes out, I'll be in Gun. And then after that, you know, with the release of Furiosa, we got another film right when I'm back from Gun. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy next couple of weeks or like a month or two. We have a lot of exciting titles on the horizon. And yeah, a lot of good stuff as well this year. And I can't wait for more people to see Hitman when it comes out in theaters and then on Netflix. That's my big recommendation of the year so far. But yeah, that closes it for this week. Lachlan, anything else?
Don't go start civil wars.
Yes, that's a good wisdom to take. Don't pick fights you don't want to finish. See you next week.
Bye.